Alrighty, and welcome back to the Demon Queen What If Deku series. This is part 2 of it. And since you guys liked the last part, I will be asking for the ship for the series. So you guys get to decide who will become Kellis' king. Alright, now let's continue. So, I believe where we last left off was when Kellis gave All for One control over all of Japan. As this happened, All for One would then begin to build up the League of Villains even further than before. And Kellis has been is currently still in the mortal world, watching over this. She'll be there for a while. She'll be there for about, I'd say, till after the first One for All user dies, then she'll go back to the underworld. As Kellis would be by All for One's side, due to her having to monitor over All for One to make sure he doesn't go back on his deal that he made. Because if he does, I'll explain what happens. Basically, in this world, demons or devils, or whatever you want to call them, can make deals. Do make deals with mortals. And if those mortals go against the deal or try to alter it without the demon or demon's knowledge, their spiritual essence will be ripped asunder, and basically they will no longer exist in any way, shape, or form. As Kellis is currently watching over All for One, as he is building up his empire, as he now has his brother, who we all know as the first One for All user, in his clutches, as Kellis is currently invisible right now, so neither All for One nor the first user can see her. As All for One is about to grab the first user, the second and third users of One for All would barge through the wall, as they would then begin to attack All for One, but this isn't a way of distracting him. This is a way for them to escape. As All for One has pulled up a barrier, as they would make their escape. With Kellis coming out of her invisibility, as she would go, "Toth, I expected you to rule Japan better, All for One. Maybe you weren't so powerful after all. Maybe I should have made a deal with your brother instead." With All for One looking at her and is about to attack her, as she would say, as she would freeze him in place, but like freezing the time around him. And she'd put her hand on his shoulder, as she would say, "Remember who you made the deal with." As she would also say, and just as a reminder, she would then press down her hand, which would trigger the mark on All for One's chest, where All for One's heart is, as she would unfreeze time, as All for One would fall to the ground screaming in pain, with him saying, "What the hell is this?" As Kellis would say, "That is the mark of our deal. You made a deal with me, and if you dare to attack me or go against our deal, that pain will increase to the point where it will tear your soul asunder. You will no longer exist, and your rule over Japan will be undone." and every thought of you or any evidence of your existence will be erased. With All For One basically terrified right now, as Callus would say, "Now then, I will leave you to rule Japan. I will head back to the underworld to rule it as its rightful queen." As she would then open up a portal, as she would then turn to All For One and say, "I will see you in the next 100 years." As she would then close the portal. As meanwhile in Hell, there are some former sympathizers of the previous Demon King who have tried to assassinate her or attack her, and all of them have, well, let's just say, all of them were turned into puddles of blood before they even touched her. That is how powerful she is. Basically, her power is so immense that if a lower ranked demon were to fight her, they would not survive. They would not even survive a tap from her finger. That's how powerful she is. And as the years passed, the first All For One user has passed, and so has the second and third user. So we're currently on the fourth user, which I believe is the one with the smokescreen quirk. I believe, I'm not sure. Yeah, I think it was the one with the smokescreen quirk because the fifth user was the one with the black whip quirk. As she's currently watching All For One's fight with him, as the fourth user has already passed on one for all to the fifth user. As the fourth user appears to be winning. Until Kellis manipulates events a little. As a random spike from the ground would come up and go into the fourth user's chest, killing him instantly. As All For One would laugh at his victory, as the fifth user was watching this, as he would then go into hiding and begin training with One For All. As we then move on to the next user, the sixth user, which is the one with Danger Sense. As she had already killed All For One had already killed the fifth user by himself. Kellis did not have any interference with that battle. As she would be watching the fight between... She would be watching the sixth user train the quirk and just staying away from All For One. As she would then basically watch as the sixth user would pass of old age. Now we move on to the seventh user, Nana Shimura. As she's basically watched Nana's entire hero career and her train All Might. As we would then get to the final battle. Actually, we would get to the point where Nana put her son into foster care, I believe it was, as she would then go to fight All For One. Or do whatever she did. Your theories are as good as mine. As Nana Shimura would then be killed by All For One, as Kellis is finding it interesting that the first user's quirk has made it through so many generations without All For One getting it at all. As Callus would watch on as All Might would then train and then would basically be training as he would then go to America and meet David Shield. As the events do go as the same as canon up until the point, hold on, give me a minute, but that as we get to the All Might versus All For One, as All Might would end up beating All For One, but the way he got his scar was different. As Callus knew that All For One's deal timer was almost up because he was about to lose his control over Japan. As All Might actually had full intention of killing All For One in this fight. So All Might had basically beaten All For One's head into the state that I was in the anime. As before All Might could deliver the final blow, Callus quickly sent her hands through a portal and sent a blast of air into All Might, basically creating the massive scar that All Might has as she'd quickly retract her hand, as her hand is currently covered in blood. As she would look at her hand in disgust, the one that's covered in blood, as she would then begin to clean it, as she would say, filthy mortal blood. As she would as once her hand was clean, she would continue watching this. As All Might would be taken, as All For One would basically be picked up by Dr. Ojiko, I believe his name is, as he would then disappear, as All Might was then taken into the intensive care. As we will now get to the present, with All For One in his base, basically going through the medical thing, stuck in the machine that he was in, as a portal would open up in front of him, as Dr. Ojiko would basically have all the Nomus. Now these are quite low tier Nomus because these Nomus were just created. As Callus would walk out the portal, as Ojiko would send the Nomus at her. As before they could even touch her, just pop, pop, pop. As there was nothing left but blood splatters all over the place. As she would look over and see the state that All For One was in, as Callus would say, "All For One, it's been a while, hasn't it?" As All For One would say, "It has been a very long time, Demon Queen Callus." As Callus would say, "I see you're still alive after all this time. I thought you would have died during that fight." To be honest, you're lucky that you had a little bit of help, as she would use quotation marks. As All For One would say, "So it was you who left that massive scar on All Might." With Callus saying, "Yep, I was the one who did that. And the fact that he's only operating at half of his power should be more than enough for you to be able to fight him again, and possibly kill him." With All For One laughing and beginning to cough, as he'd say, "The time will come when I will fight him again. But for now, I am currently dealing with a situation of mine. I've currently put a boy who I've been using to destroy the heroes. His name is Tomura Shigaraki. As Callus would say, "Oh, so here's the boy you had you had picked up." As All For One would say, "Yes. Now, I would like you, as Kels would put one finger up and say, I'm sorry, All For One. Did you forget who's the queen here? You do not demand anything from me." As All For One would immediately silence. As he would say, "You are right. I am in no position to demand anything from you." With Ujiko looking at All For One with saying, "But you're the number one villain in Japan. You can demand anything of this woman." As Callus would immediately grab Ujiko's face and slam him into the ground. As she'd say, "Look, Mr. Ujiko, I am no ordinary woman. I could kill you if I wanted to, so you should keep that trap shut." As she'd say, "Do you understand, or do I need to say it in a language that you can?" With Ujiko being basically terrified at this point, basically frantically nodding his head, as Callus would say, "Good." As she would lift her hand off of Ujiko's face, as she has basically left an imprint in the ground of Ujiko. As she would say, "Now then, I am wishing to ask something of you." As All For One would say, "And what is that?" As Callus would begin to smile. And that is where I'm going to end this part off. I do hope you guys enjoyed it. And remember, you guys get to decide what the ship will be. So, I will see you all next time. Goodbye.